Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the latest episode of Get It Right with Alex Himes. We are finally back in studio. It feels so good to be here. Hopefully everyone who's tuning in Lexington is staying happy, safe, healthy, and indoors. For those of you out there who are tuning in via YouTube as usual, thank you again. So we're going to jump right into it. And right now, we got to talk about the NBA's biggest X factors. The NBA is coming back and will be back in less than 2 weeks. So at this point, it's time to go over who could be the biggest X factors for some of the NBA's biggest contenders. And right off the bat, we're going to Milwaukee. And of course, it's going to seem kind of underrated to some, but others, it might be presumed. And that's because we're going with Chris Middleton. Chris Middleton is the second guy for the Bucks. He is by far their second best player without Giannis. And when Giannis was out for that 4-game stretch, he took them on a 4-0 record and showed that he could step up when the MVP is not there. And having him only makes Giannis's job that much easier in the postseason. For those of you who don't know, Chris Middleton is 0.01% away from having a 50-40-90 season, being 50% field goals, 40% from 3, and 90 from the free throw line. He is 0.1% in terms of true shooting percentage at 49.99% away from being a 50-40-90 player this season. He's averaged 21 points, and he's been nothing short of amazing for the Bucks overall. Their success hinges on the fact that Middleton plays at a high level to help Giannis, to shoulder that weight for when they're facing against the Eastern Conference's toughest opponents like the Bucks and the Raptors, or for when they're facing the Eastern Conference's biggest foes being the Celtics and the Raptors. Chris Middleton needs to be locked in order for them to escape the Eastern Conference. Now, that might sound like a stretch being that Giannis is the MVP, but he can't do it all by himself. We saw that in 2007 when LeBron went to the finals with no help whatsoever and got steamrolled by the San Antonio Spurs. Giannis needs his second man, and honestly, Batman and Robin in this situation, Chris Middleton is the perfect Robin to Giannis Antetokounmpo. He is what helps the Bucks give them that much of an edge against the other Eastern Conference foes. And not to mention that Eric Bledsoe might be out for some of this Eric Bledsoe now might be out for some of the season because he's now tested positive for the coronavirus. It is that much more imperative that Chris Middleton be on his A game for the Bucks in order for them to succeed long term. Especially because Middleton is that good of a player and can be that guy to make the difference for the Bucks. His presence and his play is that important for their success. Now, secondly, this name, it might be presumed as well, but we're going to Boston, and of course we're going to discuss Jason Tatum. Some might say why. You might point out that they have Jaylen Brown and Kemba Walker, who would definitely need to be X factors for the Celtics. There's nothing short there that they need to be on their A game as well. But Jason Tatum is a different animal. Just like Kanye asked Kobe, what's the difference? Are you the same beast but the different animal? Does that mean, Kobe Bryant? Well, let me tell you, Jason Tatum, post All-Star break, blossomed. He was averaging 29.9 points per game, lighting up opponents night in and night out. In this Celtics squad, albeit we're having issues against opposing scoring guards like Russell Westbrook, Karis LeVert, and Colin Sexton, Tatum was elevating his game to elite status. It's no wonder that he went to the All-Star game and was selected for his first appearance this year, and look what he's doing post-All-Star break. And not to mention the fact that he's been bulking up this summer. He's had the time and the ability to get better and build that craft. And Celtics fans are very much looking forward to see if he can ride that wave that he was on post-All-Star break in the pre-COVID season into this NBA postseason. For the Celtics, don't get me wrong, we have 4 players that are averaging 20 points per game in our starting lineup, unheard of in today's NBA. With Gordon Hayward, Kemba Walker, Jaylen Brown, and Jason Tatum all doing their job as a cohesive unit, and with Kemba Walker really stepping up and being the ideal point guard to run this Brad Stevens system, it's up to Jason Tatum's next step for the Celtics to be able to escape the Eastern Conference against the foes of like the Bucks and the Raptors. Both teams that can play very well against the Celtics squad and have shown that they can put up a fight. But Jason Tatum is that much of a difference maker, people. He is the X factor for the Celtics. They will go as far as Jason Tatum takes them. For as much as we've heard that about other teams in the past, this Celtics squad very much needs Tatum to be on his A game for them to actually have a chance to compete to escape the East and then fight off whatever foe they face in the finals if they make it there. Next up, this is going to be kind of a random one. Some people are going to point out how there are other players that are on true contenders that actually deserve a spot on this list, i.e. you have the Paul Georges of the world, you have the Dwight Howards, who might not be the biggest X factor, but still is an X factor nonetheless. The Russell Westbrooks of the world, who definitely, for Houston's success in particular, need to have him being a 2010 guy night in and night out. They traded from Chris Paul for him for a reason. It's time to see what he can do. But this next player is actually on the Miami Heat, and that is Bam Adebayo. Yes, my UK bias is kicking in, but let me tell you something. Bam Adebayo has been the tone setter for the Miami Heat all season. Jimmy Butler's a great addition. Having the veteran leadership and having a guy who can be the closer like Jimmy is perfect for this squad. But Bam is averaging a double-double this season, has definitely stepped up his game, going from 8 points to 16 points per game, and has really set the tone defensively for this Heat team. They're running around with Tyler Hero, with Jimmy Butler, and all these young guns who are really trying to outplay expectations, which they have, especially considering I had them missing the postseason this year, even with Jimmy Butler. But now, Bam Adebayo gets the chance to set the tone defensively against some of the NBA's best in this postseason, mixing his youthful play with his athleticism and his ability to destroy opposing big men down low. Miami has a great player that is really going to set the tone for them for this postseason run. Bam will definitely set the tone defensively, but also offensively against some of these other teams that run small. He can match up perfectly against them and be the glue guy that the Heat need just to escape. And yes, the Heat aren't necessarily, in my mind at least, the biggest of contenders. You have in the Eastern Conference foes such as the Philadelphia 76ers, who I really don't buy into, but are still higher in my hierarchy in the Eastern Conference. The Celtics, the Bucks, the Raptors, they have to get through those teams. And in order for them to do so, they have to have one Bam Adebayo balling down low and making other teams hate the idea of having to face him in the paint. He's going to set the tone for the Heat, and I'm damn excited to see what he can do. And finally on this list, I have to go with, by far, one of the most undervalued and underrated players to be in the postseason this year. And that is the Los Angeles Clippers' Lou Williams. You can definitely make the point. Montrezl Harrell, Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, they are the X factors for the Clippers, especially because we've only seen so much of Kawhi and Paul George on the court together, especially with the rest of the team balling out due to this quote-unquote load management fiasco. We now actually have to see their most consistent player step up and make this team better. Lou Williams has played in 60 games this season, by far the most consistently readily available scorer, not named Montrezl Harrell, of course. The other two players that are ahead of him are Vaka Zubac and, yes, Montrezl Harrell. So, Lou Williams has been averaging a cool 18.9 points per game. He's been the floor spacer. He's the instant offense for the Clippers. He is the heart and soul of that bench mob along with Montrezl Harrell. But realistically speaking, he's been their most reliably available, consistent shot creator on his own. The Clippers are going to definitely need him available in Orlando. And because his what-if status on whether or not he'll play in the bubble is still up for grabs, we don't know whether or not they will have him. And that is why, to me, Lou Williams is the X factor for the Clippers. If they do not have Lou Will available for this postseason run, they will not be able to contend with the likes of the Lakers and some of the other players in the Western Conference. Lou Williams separates himself that much on this Clipper squad, being a guy who can get his shots dropping at any point in the game, a la Vinnie Johnson from the Detroit Piston days. He is instant offense for this team. When Kawhi and PG are on the bench, Lou Williams steps up and scores in bucket loads for this Clippers team, and they're going to need that, especially with these guys whom they are claiming are ready to go and healthy, but you never know given their injury history. So for me, Lou Williams, out of everyone on this list, is my biggest X factor for this postseason run for those four squads. Now, I want to know, what are your thoughts? Do you agree with me? Do you think Lou Williams is the biggest X factor out of this list? Or do you think a guy like Chris Middleton, Jason Tatum, Bam Adebayo, or anyone that I'm not naming is the biggest X factor? Please let me know in the comments below. Now, as usual, guys, this is Get It Right with Alex Himes. We are live right now on Radio-LEX out of Lexington, Kentucky. Shout out to everyone tuning in out there. Again, thank you all for tuning in on YouTube and all these social media platforms, especially on the podcast platforms. We really appreciate it. So without that being said, I need to make sure that I let you know, please drop a like and subscribe down below. Leave us a comment because we love to hear your thoughts. And now we are going to go into the stuff that I'm loving. Right now, it's a bit of a time where we're kind of stuck watching the same Netflix shows on repeat or trying to find new content that we can binge. So I put together a list of things that I think you guys should be interested in and that are coming up very soon. So right off the bat, the Netflix series The Umbrella Academy is coming back. Season 2 is dropping at the end of this month. For those of you who don't know, please go check it out. It's a wonderful comic series, albeit kind of odd with the Blue Violin saga. But they are coming back, and now they have time traveled back in time, and we get to see the storyline play out with them as kids, with all the other heroes that were not available in the first season because of whatever reason they weren't there. They are now there, and we get to see the true origins of the Umbrella Academy, which I'm very stoked about. But more than that, I'm super stoked about Amazon bringing back The Boys. The Boys Season 2 drops September 4th. They're doing a 3-episode air, and then they're doing a new episode each week, which I am kind of not so okay with because it's an online streaming series, people. Come on, give me them all at once. I want to be able to binge watch The Boys Season 2 all at once. But at least it gives me something to look forward to doing, considering I'm still waiting on my unemployment payments, and I'll probably end up getting to watch the rest of The Boys before I receive those. For those of you who are also dealing with that issue, please go and contact your senators or your mayors and let them know that you are desperately needing that money now, and they will do what they can to help you. Do not stop trying. That being said, The Boys Season 2 drops. I'm super excited to see what goes on with Homelander, especially given the saga that we saw at the last bit of the last season. I'm really interested to see how Billy Butcher, aka Billy, takes how seeing his kid, or questionably not his kid, and seeing his ex-wife, whom disappeared. I want to know what the hell happened there. Next up, we have Dead Meat. They just dropped their latest Kill Count series. Dead Meat, for those of you who don't know, is a Kill Count series on YouTube. They also have their own podcast and do a bunch of different programs, but the Kill Count in particular is where they look at their favorite horror movies and media and also TV shows, and they break down the kills from those series with funny commentary, and you get to actually see and understand the plot line of these movies in about a 10 to 20 minute video, which is very awesome. So they just dropped their latest episode, which is Wrong Turn 4, Bloody Beginnings. The movie, of course, we know Wrong Turn. So go please check that out. It's a great channel. They do a great job. James A. Janice, I'd love to have you on the program, so please let me know. Hit me up. Now, we have the latest episode of Don't At Me with Mike, Hell, and Alex, one of my other programs, where we sit down with LA's rapper, Glasses Malone, to discuss all things NBA, the Black Lives Matter movement, and also why the hell he would take Ben Wallace over Patrick Ewing as an NBA center for his team. I don't know. Clearly the fans didn't agree because you guys commented on a ton of stuff that I had posted about it online, and there was so much hate. It was hate, because they hating. And then also I'd like for you guys to check out my latest photo shoot that I did with the No Cap Black-owned business brand here out of Los Angeles. It was a lot of fun to shoot. I actually got to use my dad's car, the BMW Z at Alpina, which you guys have seen on my social media. Shout out to my dad. I had to pull my inner Ferris Bueller and steal my pop's car. And no, don't worry. I did not try and run it reverse to get the miles off the odometer. And it was a lot of fun to shoot here in Beverly Hills. It was a great shoot. Please go check out the brand itself. If you're interested in purchasing some merch, please go ahead and feel free to do so. It's all good to support Black-owned businesses, minority-owned businesses, and also local businesses here in Los Angeles. And the final bit of news that I'd like to actually give you guys, it's on the light side, we're ending on a good side today, is that Drew Holiday has stated that he will be donating the last bit of his NBA season checks to fighting social justice change. And how is he doing that? So Drew Holiday announced that the $5.3 million left in salary that he will be leaving this season or gaining this season will be donated to launching social justice funds. Of that $5.3 million, it's going to be distributed as such. $1.5 million to nonprofit Black-owned businesses and initiatives for Black and Brown communities in New Orleans. $1.5 million in Los Angeles and Compton. $1 million in Indianapolis. $1 million to Black-owned businesses in other cities, and $500,000 to HBCUs and other universities. So I want to commend Drew Holiday on doing this. It's awesome to see that NBA players are actually taking part in the social justice and trying to be a part of the change and progress that we need so desperately in this world. So Drew, I commend you. It's awesome to see that you're giving back to these communities, especially the communities that you were a part of for varying times, when you were in Indiana with the Pacers, when you were here in Los Angeles, I mean, growing up here and being a UCLA kid, and then also helping out all these different cities overall. It's wonderful to see, and I commend you, and that is the type of story I like to be able to tell. Now, for the last bit of this episode of Get It Right, we're actually going to do a bit of an update. So for those of you guys who know, the Washington Redskins, yes, are now in the embroiled battle to change their name. So let's take a look back at how this actually started. This dates back actually years ago. Back in 2013, we'll start there actually. The name change idea for the Redskins had been proposed and had been pushed by a lot of public outlets. Dan Snyder, the owner of the Redskins, made it very clear on Twitter by saying, "I will not be changing that name. I will not be changing our name." And look at what's going on. Here we are in 2020 when the idea of change and being progressive is being pushed right in front of our eyes, which is important to have. The Redskins now are in the movement of changing their name. This was spearheaded, let's be real. It was spearheaded actually because lots of businesses decided to pull their funding from the Redskins and their sponsorships, as well as stop selling their products. Brands such as Target, Amazon, Nike, and Walmart have pulled all of their products from their websites as is. Go check for yourself. In early July, an article shows that 3 separate letters were signed by more than 87 shareholders and investment firms, which the total net worth of those was $620 million spread between Nike, PepsiCo, and FedEx that were actually asking to terminate their business with the Redskins. Once this money became an issue, you and I both know that Dan Snyder decided, okay, we will change our stance and we will try and be progressive. It was nothing to do with social justice change. It was because the lining of the pockets needed to be reinforced. And now the possible name changes were actually brought online. After the Redskins announced that they were going to change their name, the proposed names list that had been floating around for a while started hitting and gaining traction. That list included the Washington Warriors, Washington Redtails, Washington Skins, Washington Federals, or Senators, amongst other names. Then, on July 13th, they actually made the announcement. The Redskins decide that they are going to change their name, retiring the Redskins name, change the brand, and move forward. But the very next day, the news dropped that the Washington team is now in a battle to acquire the potential new names. So, why, you might ask? A man by the name of Martin McCauley, a 61-year-old Alexandria resident, has been collecting trademark names for years. Back in 2014, he had actually purchased the rights to a bunch of different Washington team names in the hopes that someday they might be useful. So, he purchased anywhere between the names of the Washington Sharks, Pandas, Warriors, Senators, Federals, Founders, Natives, Gladiators, and even the Washington Football Club. Well, that is exactly why this Washington name change has been put in basic purgatory. Because he owns the rights to those names, they are now in an embroiled court battle to try and get use and the rights to those names themselves, especially because they are trademarked. Now that things are in purgatory, McCauley himself is a lifelong Washington sports fan and has been receiving hate online from every corner of the internet. People are referring to him as an impasse for the progress of football in the Washington sports franchise. But it's important to note that McCauley himself made it this clear. I want them to change the name, and they said a trademark issue is holding it up. I'm not going to be an obstacle for changing the name prior to the first game of 2020. So that tells me, one, the internet needs to cool it on giving hate to this guy, Martin McCauley. He is clearly a wise, savvy man who just went ahead and bought a bunch of different names and saw the potential value in them. Now, here we sit looking at him like he's the bad guy, when in reality, our focus should actually be on the Redskins making this name change and also the sexual assault scandals that are coming out against various personnel of the Washington franchise. Yes, the name needs to be changed. The hate needs to be refocused and redirected towards the people who are working to cover up and actively allow these acts from occurring, or actively allowing these acts to occur while they were working at this Washington franchise. The Washington team will pick a new name soon, and the favorites seem to be the Red Tails and the Generals from what I've seen online. I don't know what you guys think they should have their name changed to, but please let me know in the comments below. But it's important to note that this name change will come, people. In due time, it will come. McCauley is a lifelong Washington sports fan, and it's important to note that he is attempting to be a part of this change, not be an obstacle. So people, please remember that. It's very important. And now, guys, as usual, please like and subscribe, give us a comment down below. Also, check me out on all social medias at HymesLA, HYMESLA. And for the last bit of today's program, we're going to leave you with what I do also on Courtside Radio, my other program, which is the Celtic Dump, where every week we discuss a topic in the Celtics world, whether it's a historical point or something I don't like. You know what really grinds my gears from Family Guy. So, as usual, people, enjoy this bit. What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back. This is Courtside Radio Live, brought to you by the Good News Radio. It is me, at Himes LA, Alex Himes. We are here today to do this week's Celtic Dump, and for this week, we're actually changing it up a bit. It's a much-awaited congratulatory story that I've wanted to give for one of my own Celtics, actually. One of our very own, Carl Lawson, has been selected to become the next head coach of Duke's women's basketball program. And I want to start off by congratulating her and her family and thanking her for all she's done with the Celtics, and also to make note of her accomplishments today in particular. In her 13 WNBA seasons, she had averaged 9.9 points per game while shooting 39% from three. She played in over 377 career games between 2003 and 2015. She brought home a championship, actually, with the Monarchs in 2005, and she even was a member of the team that won gold in the 2008 Olympics in Beijing. Lawson has what it takes to coach the Duke's women's basketball program, and I'm very excited for her and her family, and it's time that we make note of her accomplishments. And it's great also to see a female coach rise through the ranks in the NBA, especially on my Celtics, and get her talents recognized to become a head coach of a major program. So for today's Celtic Dump, it's dedicated to you, Coach Lawson. Thank you for what you've done with the Celtics again, most notably myself being that favorite Celtic fan. And I'm very excited to see what you do and your journey that lies ahead with the Duke program. Also, this week, don't forget to check out this week's episode of Don't At Me with Michael and Alex, where we sit down with ex-NBA scout Antonio Williams to discuss Black Lives Matter and what he saw in Jason Tatum's workout in Phoenix. And this week, ladies and gentlemen, it's been a good Celtic Dump. Again, congrats to Coach Lawson. We're back, baby. Courtside Radio.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. So that's this week's Celtic Dump. Thanks a lot, Alex, for killing it every week, man.
Stay safe, stay healthy. We'll see you soon.